Yeah, that's
So,
right.
yeah, I like it. So before we get started, it's Micah Lacher. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like a locker, like a foot locker.
Lacher. Right,
Yes.
perfect. So, I'm always conscious of that because I don't like to mispronounce people's names. It's quite an important thing to get right, you know? So the first question is, who is Micah Lacher?
Who is Micah Lacher? I am 42 years old, married to Britt. I have 3 young children. I have a 5-year-old daughter, a 3-year-old daughter, and a 2-year-old son. I am a native of Memphis, Tennessee, so not far from here. And I went to University of Tennessee for college, and then I moved to Nashville 20 years ago to start in the real estate business. So Nashville, I've now lived in Nashville longer than I've lived anywhere.
Really?
So, yeah.
Brilliant.
So I love it. It's obviously it's been a great city to live in, and it's been a great place to be in the real estate business. And
Yeah.
Nashville is obviously one of the hottest cities in the U.S., so it's been a lot of fun to watch all that's happened in the last 20 years.
Oh, I'll bet. And having seen what you guys have built in the last 3-4 years here's wicked.
Impressive.
Really
I mean, we've only
impressive.
been in here for the night and we just drove here and it's beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
it's important to say, obviously, we stayed at the Gallatin, thanks to you guys for putting us up there.
Yeah.
And we've just had a little tour of the Russell. How did it all come to this? Was it commercial real estate you were always involved in? But this is a bit of a bigger project than just buying and selling, isn't it? Talk us
Yes,
through
it
that.
is. So I started out my career in the brokerage business, just selling and leasing for other owners. And a couple years into my career, one of my clients was a big developer, and he recruited me. He's out of Knoxville, actually, and he recruited me to open an office for him in Nashville. And so I partnered with him for a couple years and learned the investing, developing side of the business. And
Right.
I launched our company, Anchor Investments, in 2009. And I always tell people my day job is buying old shopping centers and
Okay.
making them higher and better uses. So that's always been our focus as a company, is retail, just revitalizing these dying shopping centers all around America. We work in about 9 states currently. And
Oh, brilliant.
yeah, so it's been a great business for us. That is the way we, frankly, financially have been able to do this. So, we publicly state that we give away the majority of our profits from our hotels to underserved communities. So homeless, job training, teen moms.
Yeah.
And so we see this business, frankly, as a ministry to help others. And financially, I'm able to do that because of our commercial business. So that's how I can provide for our team and my family. And then most years, we give 100% of the profits away from this business.
Wow.
So we have
That's
3 hotels
amazing.
currently, 5 or 6 lofts, the Gallatin and the Russell. And hopefully we'll start construction on our 4th this year. So
Wow, okay.
so I kind of backed into this business, frankly, when Airbnb started in Nashville. I used to own a lot of rental houses and with a buddy of mine. And when Airbnb started, we read about it and we're like, well, this is super interesting. Why don't we try it? So we're like, we'll just go buy some furniture, furnish the house and put it on Airbnb and see if it works. And I mean, I laugh. I think there were a couple hundred properties at the time on Airbnb in Nashville, and now there's 10,000. And so we tried it, and it started working great. So then we're like, all right, we're going to turn all the rentals. So we start taking our best rental properties in the best locations that people might want to stay in and turning them into Airbnbs. And then I told my friend, I was like, it was just so inefficient to manage all that with 50 different rental houses. And so I was like, if we could ever find a building and build a bunch of these in one building, we'll manage it like a hotel, but we'll do it through technology. Because Airbnb was the first thing ever that kind of made it acceptable to book. You wouldn't, 10 years ago, you would have never booked a hotel where they're like, there's no employees there.
Yeah.
Your phone's going to get you in and out, and
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that. If I'd turned up at any other hotel on this trip and there was nobody there, I'd be a bit like, what have I booked?
That's right. And Airbnb
That's
made
a real USP for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was
It's
huge.
fantastic. We rolled into Nashville at 20 past 10 last night, PM, and we were in our room in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was actually quicker than it would have been if someone had to check us in,
Yeah.
and you didn't need someone there late.
Totally. And we laugh now that it's socially acceptable. Like I always tell friends, like now when I travel, I only stay in places you can check yourself in and out, because going to stand in a line for 15 minutes for them to give you a room key is so inefficient.
Yeah.
And COVID, frankly, I mean, it hurt our business when no one was traveling, but the post-COVID world, people got accustomed to contactless check-in,
Yeah,
and
that's
like
true.
they love it. So
Yeah.
honestly, like if people are a little bit of an older demographic, sometimes they're hesitant, but after they stay with us one time, they're like, I never want to stay in a normal hotel and wait in line. They love the convenience of it and love being able to text the managers and get whatever they need.
Yeah, we just got a text just to let us know that you got in safe, and it was quite. It is the way you would book an Airbnb, isn't it? It was quite personal, it's a hotel, there's 23 rooms in this one. How many rooms have you got in the Gallatin?
We have 25 at the Gallatin.
25 at the Gallatin, 23 here, but it's quite a personal affair, someone texting you. It's not just an automated email.
That's right.
That's cool. So, and was that always the plan to do that? Or was the plan to build something that gave back from the start?
Well, I always say God has a funny sense of humor. I'm not a person that knew how this was all going to work out. Yeah. We did it downtown. So I've always focused on the retail industry. So there was a bourbon bar that wanted a location downtown, and I had a relationship with them, and they only could lease the property. They didn't want to purchase. Right. So I found them a building downtown, and we bought it, and then we leased half the building to them. And it had these 2 floors above it that were just beautiful. The building's probably 150 years old.
Oh, cool.
They haven't been occupied in 60 years, but they have beautiful bones, but they were a total mess. Yeah. And so I was like, well, that would be a great place to try this idea. So that was 6 years ago when we did our first one, and we built 6 units downtown. And they're built more as like condos. They're bigger units, full kitchen. So it's people that might want to stay a little longer, make their own food at their condo. And so we did that, and we were like, man, this is great. And then one day, probably 2 years later, I drove by this church in East Nashville at the Russell, and I was like, man, that would be a beautiful hotel. And they had literally just put a real estate sign in the yard. So I called. It was actually a friend of mine. Her name was on the sign. I called her, and I was like, what's the story with this church? And could we buy it? And what's the price? And she's like, well, it's zoned as a church. You have to get it rezoned. I said, well, I want to build one of our hotels here. I think it would just, and I always laugh, like the number one rule in real estate is not to fall in love with a piece of property. And I fell in love with this building. And because when I walked in, I mean, it doesn't look anything like it looks today, but the stained glass windows, it had like purple shag carpet. I mean, it was very,
in the pictures.
It was very run down. And, but the bones of it were so pretty. And I was like, man, you just had to kind of re-envision. Or if we took out the bad carpet and reworked everything, I bet it would be beautiful. And
which it is.
Especially when you see upstairs, your third level where the open attic and the open beams, and it's a nice spot.
Yes.
So was this the first one that the hook was really in? That this is what you're going to do now?
That's right. Yeah, so once we found this, we're like, okay, we could try to scale this and build more of it. And you had asked me, like, did we always know we were going to give away the money? We always knew that we were going to give away a portion of the money. And we started a program called Rooms for Rooms, which was to connect the idea with hotel guests, like, hey, you rent a room from us and someone that's homeless can have a room tonight.
I saw that in your little
at the Mission.
Guide,
so we'd read this, and first off, it's amazing what you're doing. But then for anyone that hasn't read the sign on the front, one weekend stay is like 16 rooms, isn't it?
That's correct.
Like one weekend stay is 16 rooms for homeless people. And then we've seen the pictures out front. You've got the shower units that come out. You've got the haircut in.
Amazing.
You've got the... I think it's
more people
something...
should do it.
Yeah, talk a bit more about that, because that's really interesting from a give back point of view.
Yeah, so I'm a person of faith, and I feel like that God has given me the ability to make money to help others. And so I've always tried to figure out, like, how can we use our business? We do the same thing on the commercial side, but it's just much more tangible here, because on the commercial side, we deal with commercial clients, big companies. And here it's fun because consumers, almost anybody can afford to book a hotel room for a night, but it gives them a tangible way to give back by using a service they would already use. So you can stay at Hilton or Marriott, or you can stay with us. But, I say, like, we always publicly say we're the only hotels in America that give away the majority of the profits. I always laugh, like, we probably... sadly, we'll always be the only ones, because it's a crazy idea to give away the majority of your money. But, I'm super thankful to have this whole other business that gives us the financial resources to run this as just a ministry. But like I've always told friends that own hotels, I'm like, just give away 1% of your profits, or start somewhere, because we're trying to set an example for others to live generously. And we try to be an example of how you can use your business for good. And I understand everybody's got different constraints, but I'm like, everybody has the ability to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you.
They can just start small, because I've been asked this before, and people are like, man, the majority, that's crazy. I'm like, well, you don't have to give away the majority. You can just start with something.
That's just your decision to do that, but you can
That's
start
right.
off small.
And so we're hoping we can inspire other businesses, whether they're other hotels or consumer good companies, to do something. Because I always tell friends, like, the amount of impact you will have and the joy you get from that far overcomes the money you're giving away.
That's cool.
So we're hoping to be an inspiration to other business owners, that you can do this through your business to some extent, whatever you choose.
Yeah. When you were working purely commercially before all of this, and you were in commercial real estate, did you think you were missing something? Were you missing something like this? Did you feel that there had to be something more to it than just that, or have you always been a give back person?
Well, part of my story is I grew up very poor. So we were the recipients of a lot of charity growing up. So I saw the impact as a young kid, that like a family that's really struggling to get by, trying to work, trying to pay your bills. But like, I always tell people, like, we didn't starve as kids, but like anything outside the normal day-to-day expenses of rent and food was an emergency in my family. It's like if the water heater went out, that was a family emergency. There was just no hot water until, God provided the money, or somebody showed up to give us the money. So I have felt what it's like to be on the other side of that, and that always had a huge impact on me. So I have always been wired to be generous, just because I was a recipient of generosity. But like, I've had to take my own path to kind of where I am today. And you ask a question. I mean, there were seasons of my life where I was just working, to make money, provide for my family, to help my mom out, who had struggled my whole life. And, but I've never been a very financially motivated person for myself. And I struggled. There was a season about 5 or 6 years ago. I was like, why am I working? What's the purpose? Why was I put on this earth? And, should I sell my businesses and, go run a nonprofit or a ministry full time? And basically through a process, and I read a great book called Halftime, which is about using your business platform for impact. Like,
what's it called? Halftime?
It's called Halftime.
We'll take a note of that.
It's by a guy named Bob Buford.
Halftime, Bob Buford. Sorry, on you go.
Yeah, and it was a very impactful book, because I felt like a lot of books I had read over the years encourage you like to sell your business and just like, move to a hut in Africa and be a missionary, or,
Yeah, they're very two extremes, aren't they? Whereas you
Yes.
seem to have found a beautiful synergy in the middle.
Yeah, and so this book is about how over years you have developed a set of skills that you can use to impact the world. But like, some people are called to stay in business. Most of us have to have jobs, to provide for our family, but you can use your business skills to have an impact on the world. And so that was the first time kind of light bulb went off for me, that like, I don't have to sell all because frankly, I've always loved business. I like to read business books. I really enjoy working in a business. And so I was like, but I always felt this conflict about like, I kind of separated my work life and my giving. So I'd be like, okay, the business makes money, it pays me, and then I choose to be charitable. Me and my wife do. And then I realized through reading that book, it's like, no, the business is the platform for giving, and we can impact the life of our employees, and we can impact the lives of those less fortunate in our community.
Yeah.
We can be an inspiration to other business owners to be generous and have an impact. So I realized that God gave me this business to be the vehicle for impact. So the business is the impact, and businesses provide jobs, they provide hope, inspiration for people. And so, I felt at that point very called to stay in business, not sell my business, and really just double down to try to grow my business so we could have bigger impact.
That I find very interesting, because you're absolutely right. Like, a lot of people that do decide to go and give back, that have been successful in business, the sort of norm is sell up and go and give back, which is amazing in itself, that you would give up so much to go and give back. But it's a one and done.
Yeah.
Once you've sold and given that money, it's done.
Yeah.
Whereas you've been able to continually develop, continually build. You've built other hotels now, like the Gallatin that we are staying at, that's got another 25 rooms in it that you can give out. There's constant profit growth that you can give back out. If you hadn't done that, it would have really been like, here's one cash injection to one area that you're passionate about, whereas now you're able to provide.
Continual.
Yeah. You're able to. It's a really nice way to look at it, that actually by you building a successful business, you're also every year more and more and more charitable than if you'd just done it the first time.
Yeah.
So we need to thank Bob Buford for writing his book.
That's
really.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. I had the same thought as like, we could have sold our business and me and my wife could have chosen to give away some fairly significant money. But I would lose my platform. So you just kind of fall out of touch with people because, right now I get to talk to my clients and my team members every day. And so you're in the flow of the business. But, we chose instead to invest some of that capital into these hotels.
Yep.
And then we could see returns on those for the next 40 years, And so
Easily.
the money that we would have given away is a fraction of what we'll be able to give away
Over 40 years.
Yes,
yeah,
over 40
absolutely.
years.
And the jobs you've been able to provide because of it, and even just the space. Like,
That's right.
you're able to give people a place to sleep. Yes, you'd have been able to get a cash injection and put them up somewhere, but you're actually able to put them up in. You have control of where they're being put up. It's a really nice space that they're in.
And you're setting such a good example for others.
Yeah,
sure.
I think it's a really good example. I was, a lot of people recommended the Russell to us and the Gallatin to us just because they're cool. And that's why we wanted to get in touch and talk with you more, because it felt like there was more under the surface.
Oh, yeah,
Which
hugely.
we're already discovering, 15 minutes in. There's a lot more under the surface. So you mentioned your team there. We spoke with one of your team there as we were organising it all. How important has that team been to this? Because not everybody would have understood this vision.
We do say that for the right type of team members, our mission attracts the right type of people, because especially with millennials, so many of them are looking for purpose through their work. And very few companies have such a focus on doing good. And, there are companies that have charity programs and all, but it's not a focus of their business. For us, especially on the hotel side, it is our business. And so we have attracted super gifted people that feel called to work hard but make an impact through their work. So we always encourage our team, whether on the hotel side or the commercial side, when you have a difficult client or a difficult guest at the hotels, you have to keep the bigger picture in mind, because you're dealing with that situation. There's people that last night, our team volunteered last night with Shower Up, giving showers and giving food away. There were a lot of people last night that got a warm shower downtown that haven't had one in a week.
Wow.
Due to the hard work, because you dealt with the guest that's frustrated about something or had a bad day. And so, I have to personally remind myself, because I tell people I own the business, and there's still days that I just have to deal with situations that are not fun.
Yeah.
But when I'm in the middle of those situations, I remind myself that, hey, because we're doing this hard work, there's people that are teen moms that got Christmas this year. There's, young boys in the inner city of Nashville that are learning about life through woodworking through one of our partners. There's people
That's
getting
cool.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
showers. So it really helps, because all of us in our jobs, I don't care if you work for the coolest company in America, you have challenges at work.
Yeah, of course.
And, you guys have challenges in what you do. It's
Yeah.
things happen. The podcast equipment fails. Things happen. We all get curveballs at work. And so, it's fun to think that you're working for a greater purpose than just a paycheck.
That's exactly what we do, the publication.
Yeah, our whole mission is just to glorify makers and connect makers with the world, really. And how... So it would be very easy for a company to set up to give back. You can apply somewhere and say, I'm going to give this percentage of my profit. But how important do you think it is that it's your guys that are going and volunteering, it's your guys that have homeless people staying here? It's just a little bit more intertwined. And it seems like because it would be right in front of you, you're saying last night you guys went out and done the Shower Up, and it would keep it very front of mind. That must really attribute to the success of all this.
It absolutely, it does. Because, we feel called to give more than just financial resources. It's good to give your time and talents as well. And so, you have different team members that are gifted in different areas of business. And one thing we've done over the years is I used to think that I needed to go to the soup kitchen and ladle the soup at night.
Yeah.
But I have 3 young children, and I have a priority to be a great husband and great dad. And I just frankly don't have as much time as I used to. So when I do have time available, I set aside some time every month to like help our nonprofit partners. But I say, hey, I've been gifted with like financial management skills, budgeting, marketing, and those are the things I do at our company. So I'm like, if I could help you guys, you know, this is a good use of, I only have 2 hours this week. Yeah. Let me help you with this. And it's...
You're very good at that.
Yes, I'm good at it. And they don't sometimes have board members that are good at it, or they don't have a resource. I mean, I laugh that half of our partners can barely open Excel. They're just big-hearted people that have this huge mission to change the world. And I'm like, hey, let me help you with your budget. Like, let me look it over. I can offer some questions, some feedback, and that's a huge blessing to them. And that 2 hours is better spent helping them with their budget than it is like, you know, going to sort the clothes that month. Like, I mean, I try to do both, but like my time is limited this season. I have different team members that, you know, don't have families yet. They have more time, so they have a lot more time. I have a little bit more of experience and expertise just because I've been doing business for 20 years.
Yeah, it makes sense, yeah.
Do you think that outlook allows you to be more impactful? You know, you knowing that that's my value added, if I concentrate on what I'm really good at. Because it would, if you had more time, it feels like it would be really easy to just go and ladle soup. I say just, it's obviously not just, that's a really important thing as well, and help with the shower up. But because you have such limited time, it feels like actually you're given more impact because you're given the real value added that they might struggle to get help with.
Absolutely. I had to come with peace with that, of like, that is the way I can have the biggest impact of this season of life. Like, helping them with that, they might not have somebody to help them. They have a lot of volunteers who can help with other things, but I have a handful of things I'm good at, and other people in the world are good at too, but I know these guys and they need help with it. And so it's really, now I do realize that that is more impactful using those hours that way, strategically.
Yeah. And how did it all come about? You've seen the space, but this must have been a massive conversion job. Huge.
Yeah.
You know?
It was a massive undertaking, frankly. I mean, your listeners can look on our website to see some before pictures, but you know, sadly, this church had been in decline for many years, so it didn't look as bad on the outside. We've done a lot on the outside, but like, because it's historic, you're not allowed to change it, nor did we want to. But like, once you started peeling the layers back on the inside, they had had roof leaks for years.
Yeah,
I mean, they
can only imagine.
they had run out of money. They couldn't keep the roof fixed, so they just had leaks, and they were doing the best they could, but they could barely afford to keep the lights on. So by the time we bought it, you know, it just had so many issues, and a lot of which we didn't even know until we started pulling the walls
stuff back,
and then you're like, well, that floor's rotted out, and they have mold, and, you know, just all the different things. But for us, it was a labor of love because, you know, sadly in Nashville, with the progress and growth here, a lot of these beautiful buildings have been torn down, and they're skyscrapers or apartments, and I have always loved historic buildings. So the other benefit of the hotel business is it gives us the economic means to go save these beautiful buildings from demolition, because, you know, I think the character of the city is the fabric of these historic buildings. And I always tell people there's a difference in old and historic. Some buildings are just old block buildings, and they aren't pretty, and you know, I'm all for progress and things, but buildings like the one we're sitting in today are just a piece of this neighborhood's history.
Having come up this neighbourhood today, and you know, we came up from the west side there and came up, it's a nice spot. It's a nice spot, and it's also quite traditional is maybe not the right word, but you know what I'm getting at is they're all small, they're all detached. It'd have been a real shame if this wasn't here, and you know,
such a big
flat blocks were in there, apartment blocks and stuff.
That's right.
So what was the story with the Gallatin as well? You know, this obviously was a lot of work. I can see just by the steels in it that there's been structural work done, and it would have been easier to drop this and rebuild, surely.
Totally. I always laugh, it would probably cost the same amount of money to tear it down and rebuild it. We might have saved money, but you would have lost all the character
history,
of this beautiful building. And, you know, you'll be able to see as you walk around. Like we tried to expose as many of the historic elements, bring them back into view for people. And we opened the old attic up, and you have these beautiful 150-year-old beams up there. And
we went a walk around beforehand.
So it's but the Gallatin was the same story. It was another struggling church. The event space, which we own next door, we lease that out. They host weddings and events. And that building's about 100 years old. The hotel is about 60 years old. Okay. So they had built the old church, and then 40 years later, they built the addition to the church. Yeah. So same story. It was another struggling church that needed to sell their property, and it had just fallen into disrepair. And we opened the Gallatin about a year and a half after we opened the Russell. So same process. It was not in as bad of a shape, but we just, it was in bad shape. So we had to totally redo it. And I mean, every inch of the inside the outside walls is brand new.
Yeah. You're very proud of it, aren't you? You can see you're smiling ear to ear talking about it.
Oh, very much. I mean, to see something come from driving by a building to see like guests sleeping in the beds there's a lot of hard work in between. And
we appreciate them.
I have an excellent team, that has worked so hard. I mean, the credit goes to my team. They do the heavy lifting day to day. I help put the projects together and figure out the funding and the financing, but like Hannah and Kennedy and Trace and Lindsay, and they all do all the hard work to serve our guests. And if you look at our online reviews, I mean, on TripAdvisor, we have the number 1, 2, and 3 hotels in Nashville currently for small boutique hotels. So my clients, our team member does such a good job serving our clients that like the reviews matter, because we don't have the same marketing budget that these large hotels have, and we need people to hear about us so they can stay with us to learn about our mission to give back. So
we'll be spreading the word.
I was so impressed.
Yeah.
And I can imagine it's quite a difficult thing to get that good review as well, because normally when we review the people. We review the people behind the bar, the people behind the check-in desk, don't we? We don't review the space.
That's right.
And your whole ethos is that you don't have those people.
That's right.
So how have the staff impacted? The text message for a start was a really nice personal touch.
Yes.
But how do you think that you have got such good reviews?
I think our team does an amazing job of personalizing it through technology, through emails and texts. I mean, if you read our reviews online, almost every other review will mention an employee by name. It'll say Hannah was amazing, or Lindsay, or Trace, or Kennedy. And so they have a personal connection, even though they never physically met them. But our team does such a great job serving them, answering their questions ahead of their trip while they're here. And so they do a great job of communicating ahead of time. So hopefully the guests can just show up, have a great time, check out. And then I always say the perfect stay for us is we communicate with the guests up till their stay. We never hear from them during it. They check out and leave us a 5-star review. That means we were successful, because we try to pre-communicate and send a lot of information ahead of time about where to go, have a drink, where to go.
Your little guide is brilliant.
You were really impressed by that.
We
were flicking through that this morning. Nice little guide, beautifully presented. It's almost like a boutique restaurant menu.
Right.
And it's just got all these great places. And Kate and I are going through, and we're like, we're going to go there, we're going to go there, we're going to go.
Because we've never been here, so.
And for people that have literally just dropped into Nashville last night, and we're good stroke bad at not checking out places before, not Googling, because we like doing this. We like talking to people, and people will say, go there, go there. That was great. That was really good. So another great example of it. So going back to the charitable giving though, because I really don't want to stray too far from that, because it clearly is what motivates you. You must have some great stories of people's lives being turned around because of these hotels.
For sure.
Oh, yes.
Have you got any you can share?
Well, so every quarter at our office, we'll do like a quarterly session to review how the business is going and talk about our goals and everything. And we always bring in a charitable partner.
Right.
So one of our partners will come and tell the team why their work matters and some impact stories. But probably last year would have been the timing, but Paul, who runs Shower Up, he's the founder of Shower Up, which has taken these mobile box trucks and built mobile showers. So you think about if you're a homeless person I mean, the three of us take for granted, you know, sadly taking a shower every day. But if you live on the streets, like a shower's like gold. And so this guy has created a model where he can hook up to any public fire hydrant, and then he has water heat. Like, it's a nice shower. You go in there and it's hot water, and you go in there and they treat you so well. And so he told us a really cool story about how he was interviewed by the local newspaper, the Tennessean, and about his mission and all the good work they were doing. And in that, there was a picture of him with a guy in the background who was homeless. And he got a call from a lady, and that was her son, and hadn't seen him in years.
Oh, no way.
wow.
And she was able to reconnect with her son, who had been living on the streets for years. She had been trying to find him. She didn't even know he was in Nashville, but someone had seen the picture, recognized him, contacted her, and then through that process, she was able to re-engage in her son's life, who had just been missing in action for years. And you know, I don't know the backstory why he had fallen out of touch with his family, but he had, and nobody even knew where he lived. So, I mean, it made me cry to hear the story. It was just unbelievable how, you know, his good work, it ended up getting him in the newspaper, and this random guy's in the background, and then the mom. I mean, I can't imagine like rediscovering your kids after probably thinking they're dead for years.
Well, this is it, especially if they're homeless. The chances are they won't have a mobile phone, or they won't have the means to find numbers and to...
That's right.
You know, and it seemed they could be round the corner.
Yes.
And you might not even know.
That's crazy.
It doesn't tell a newspaper article and you're caught in the background. So that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it's a good story.
And what's next? What do you see? I say what's next as if you've not already achieved massive things. But where do you see this all going? Are you just going to keep buying up and building?
We're going to try. I mean, as we're given the opportunities, we'd love to eventually get to 10 hotels. We're hopeful. We're going through the city planning process right now with the church that we already own a couple blocks from here. Right. So that will be our 4th hotel. We're hopeful to get to 10 hotels. I mean, obviously we need churches that are willing to sell to us. It doesn't always have to be churches, but I mean, what's happening, you know, in America is more churches are closing every day than opening. And so, and generally there are these beautiful old buildings. And so, you know, for us, it's like, hey, it's probably never going to be a church again, just with the way religion is going in America. And so we can, you know, establish a new mission for that property and give back. So, you know, I always tell people we're a great buyer because, like, most people are going to try to put a business or something in to just go make as much money as possible. I say we can continue the mission of your church.
Yeah, it feels like a good fit.
It's going to look different. It is. It's going to look different. It's a hotel, but we're not keeping the profits for ourselves. We're putting them back into the community, which, you know, the historical purpose of the church was to minister to the people in the neighborhoods. And so that's what we're able to do.
That's exactly what you're doing,
So we're hopeful that other churches will hear our story and it'll resonate, and, you know, and hopefully they'll be willing to sell to us and we can keep doing this. And we believe we will. Like, we believe we'll continue to be provided with opportunities, and, you know, we'll just keep growing as we're able, and we're motivated to do it.
It feels like the ideal opportunity would be for these churches, before they turn into a state of almost disrepair like this one, to hear your mission, to reach out to you.
That's right.
And to be like, we're on the downturn, would you like to buy? That's presumably every time, not that you want to see a church go out before it's time, but if it saves you a lot in doing this, that's a lot more you can give back, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're hoping our message resonates with them. And, you know, if they're already struggling, it's like the writing is on the wall that it's probably going to have to shut down at some point. And yes, we would love to get involved sooner, because the further they fall into disrepair, frankly, just the less we can pay for the church, because the extra money we're going to have to spend on the construction. Yeah,
exactly. And more unforeseens, and that's your bottom line, and your bottom line for you is important because you're giving back anything over that. What's the city and the town been like in response to this?
From the town, you said?
Yeah, from the town, from the city,
what
from
are they saying
planning.
about
How's
it?
that been in response to this? Have they been pretty supportive?
It's very interesting you ask. Like anything, neighborhoods do not love change. So this first one, the Russell, downtown, we already had the zoning in place because the way it works. But in East Nashville, where we are today, people were concerned, just about what's this going to be? Is it going to be parties and loud music and all these things? And we said, hey, we're not doing that. That's not the model. We don't want to manage those type hotels. It's not enjoyable for guests like you guys who are trying to get a good night's sleep if somebody is partying next door. So we manage these properties very tightly from a noise. We actually use a software in the rooms where if the noise levels get above a certain decibel, it will notify the guest and the manager.
Oh, okay.
And you guys will see it, and you probably saw it last night, but we have signs all over with our quiet hours.
Yep.
And because we want, my wife and I have 3 young children, we're traveling, we want to get a good night's sleep. And we tell people, if you want to go out and have a good time, that's great, but when you come back, keep it quiet so everybody can get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And we've had very few issues over the years. But, it's easy to tell people that's your business model, but then you have to prove it. So honestly, it was a hard-fought battle to get this zoned by the city, but we felt so confident about what we were doing in our mission. I fought hard for it. And once we got it approved, now all these neighbors, you could go walk down the street today and they'd be like, oh, we love the Russell, and man, it's been amazing. They've done exactly what they said, but we had to prove to the people because, sadly in my industry, a lot of developers will say one thing and do another. And that's not
very akin back home as well. Yes. Oh, we'll restore this building. Yeah. Within a week it's down and it's like, oh, it was too expensive to restore. Right. And they never planned on doing it.
No, that's right.
And not to speak ill of people, I don't want to speak ill of people that aren't here to defend themselves, but there's a trend.
Yes. I always say our industry's gotten a well-deserved bad reputation, but that's not who we are, but we have to go prove that to people. So
but you have.
Since we got this done, the Gallatin was easy because the neighborhoods are like, we get neighbors from this area to show up to that neighborhood meeting and say, hey, we were a little nervous about it too. These people are amazing. When my parents come to town, we put them at the Russell, so we've been able to prove. So it's gotten easier with each one because, and plus our mission resonates so well with people.
Yeah, once the mission's communicated, I don't think I could live in a neighbourhood knowing that myself or someone else in that neighbourhood or a neighbour would oppose to something like this.
That's right.
Now knowing what the mission is and having found out what the mission is. You mentioned software there, and how important do you think that technology, obviously the check-in side of things and all that, how important do you think that has been to the success of something like this?
I think it's been great. I mean, because we do not have someone sitting in the lobby 24 hours a day, y'all know this, but we do have a team here most of the day, but they're not here overnight. And so our employees actually do work from the hotel. They have their own offices here. But, it is important because I think just having that, if someone does maybe have one too many drinks and turns their music up a little loud, the accountability of that, of them getting a message and it's like, oh, I need to, close it down. If we've ever had issues, they've been shut down very quickly because of that, because it keeps everybody accountable. And, we don't market that, but we have to have a way to remotely monitor that because we don't have someone in here in the lobby 24 hours a day that would hear the music and go tell them to turn it down.
Yeah, or a neighbour hears it they message one of your guys and that instantly starts creating a bit of a bad thing, so you're picking it up immediately from software in the rooms.
That's
right. I've never heard of that before.
I've never heard of it.
It's called Noise Aware. It's a big thing. It's actually a really big company, and they do a lot with Airbnbs to, same issue. If you have a beach house, you want to make sure people aren't, being loud and disturbing the neighbors there.
That's good. And everything so far is in Nashville, isn't it? Mm-hmm. What do the future properties look like? Do you want to expand this out with, or is your core going to just be given back to Nashville? Because I think it'd be really easy to spread this too thin, wouldn't it? Then not be able to give back in such a connected way.
Well, you have a good question. For now, we are focused on Nashville. We have said if we could find another city, we would need to enter the market with a couple properties because just from an efficiency, we would have to have a team in Charlotte or Denver or wherever.
From a staffing point of view. Okay.
It would be very hard to have one hotel in Denver, you know, because just economies of scale. But for now, what we've said is people have called me over the years and I'm like, hey, if you want to do it in Denver, I'll give you the whole business model.
Oh, brilliant.
If you are committed to giving back and being generous, I'll help you put the whole thing together. I'll tell you how we did it.
Brilliant.
Like I'll share it's an open book because we would love for people in other cities to copy the model. And I think over time there's an opportunity for us to expand into other cities. We would just have to go with multiple properties at once, identify a market, and then launch in that city.
Yeah. But it's really nice and it's quite refreshing to hear from a business point of view. Like we hear it a lot with makers, they're very giving and helping in community, but from a business point of view, which I know this is a passion as well as a business, so I don't want to discredit that you would be willing to just be like, oh, you want to do that there? This is how we done it. Here's everything we used. This is the setup. That's pretty cool. You should be commended for that.
Well, thank you.
That's good.
We just want to see people make an impact. So if, we don't currently have the ability to go to Denver or Chicago. So if there's someone there that...
Why hold it back?
Yeah, we would be happy to see them make an impact in their city.
Yeah, but it's not just the story of the hotel. Like, it's so nicely done. Like, the design, it's comfortable. You've got, like, in hotel rooms, I mean, I've never seen a hotel room with a Dyson hairdryer. Just like things like that, make sure stay comfortable. So...
Yeah, I think that's important to talk about, Kate. You're absolutely right. We're talking so much about the mission and we're talking so much about the buildings and the restoration, but the design side's wicked as well. Like just as on the face of it, boutique hotel, they look good.
Yeah,
they look really good. How instrumental do you think that's been to your success? The fact that they are actually just appealing hotels on the face of it.
Well, I'm glad you guys mentioned this because we always tell our team, first and foremost, we need to be an excellent experience in a hotel for the guests. Right. It's great we have a mission, but if we just had a crappy hotel with a great mission, some people would still stay with us because we had a great mission. But our job is, frankly, some people stay here and they almost don't even know that we give money away. They just think it's an excellent hotel and one of the top hotels in Nashville. So we said, we're not going to use our mission as a marketing chip to just get guests. First and foremost, the rooms have to be beautiful.
Yep.
It's got to be clean. It's got to be well done. All the furniture, the cool thing is all of our rooms are different. We've partnered with makers in Nashville. So we tried to do as much locally as we could to get furniture built. And
there's actually Tileworks, Red Tileworks, that we're going to be podcasting on Wednesday, and I'm sure the tiles are...
Tileworks,
Oh yes, we've used them. They've done a bunch of our tiles.
Which is so cool.
Yeah,
I love it.
I think it was them that recommended you guys first. Check these guys out. Them and Honeytree round the corner.
Yes.
They both recommended you.
So we try to expand our mission, spending money locally, buying a lot of the snacks you'll notice in your room. We get free snacks. Those are all local snack companies where we're not just buying, a big brand Snickers bar or whatever. We're getting the local chocolates made. And so we're trying to expand our mission just to support local makers, which I know is y'all's passion because they need business as well. And our hope is by putting their stuff, buying our snacks from them is providing them with revenue, but then hopefully they'll pick up new customers because they're like, man, these little chocolate bars are unbelievable. And they can order them online and get them shipped to wherever they live. Yeah,
it's brilliant, man. I think it's great. It's quite apparent that the ability to give back with a business like this, if you look at it as I'm going to give back, knows no bounds. You can give back in every single way. Why was Nashville so important for you to give back in? Or was it just circumstances, just where you were?
Well, I feel very called to just support the community we live in. And my wife and I we're committed to raising our children here. And, some people get passionate about global things. And we try to financially support some of that stuff as well. But, I believe that we can have the most impact here right out our back door. And, we can help change our city for good. And so Nashville, it's easy to kind of see these videos online of people in Africa and they need a ton of help. And I have a lot of friends that are working hard to help them. But, there's a lot of need in America too, and it's just more apparent in foreign countries. But there's tons of people in Nashville that don't have enough money to get by, don't have the services they need to access, and so we just feel like, hey, why not focus here?
It feels like because it's here as well, and because it's where you are, you can give real, tangible, first-hand feedback.
You can see it.
You can get real, you can see it. You can get real, tangible, first-hand feedback. That must be quite motivating.
It absolutely. It's fun, and it's fun to. We were talking about this as a team yesterday, but it's fun to do what we did last night and get out and actually see the charities at work. See the people they're serving, meet these people, put a name and a face together, and see the impact. It's different than just writing a check and being like, here's the money. It's let's go see the money at work.
Yeah, and I don't want to disparage from people, and of course you don't want to either, and you've quite clearly said that, disparage from people that are giving money overseas and stuff. And yes, of course you can go and see that, and yes, of course you can jump on a plane and go and see that. But all of the money you've taken to go and see that, you could have actually just put straight here, couldn't you? Like outside your front door, you know, there's the picture in the front door, the shower unit. It's parked up there.
That's right.
You know, it's like, for anyone listening, it's about 7-8 meters from where we are now.
That's right.
That's cool.
It is cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and it's been fun for me. Like when we opened this hotel, as part of the grand opening, we built a shower truck for them. And so it's fun. Like you'll see it driving around Nashville and it'll say, you know, proudly provided by 5 of 6 Lofts and the Russell.
Brilliant.
And that was before the Gallatin even opened. But like it's fun to see that thing hooked up to people in line to get a warm shower and our names on the side, and you realize like, we were able to help provide that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. We've talked loads and asked you loads of questions. Is there anything you want to cover while we're here?
For the podcast?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, you know, my goal in speaking with you guys today is to inspire other people to think about light differently. And so I always tell people, like, if someone's listening to this, they say, well, oh, Micah, that's easy. He owns there's a perception he's got money and he owns the business. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I say, like, you can be the lowest person at your company and have an impact. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody has been gifted with a certain set of skills in a season of life. And so if you're the most young employee at the company, you can motivate your boss to say, hey, I want to sign up for us to volunteer here.
You can be an influence on
you can be an influence on your company. And so
it's quite important what you've said there as well. It could just be a conversation.
That's right.
Like putting it in front of the boss.
That's right.
You know?
And so, like, you know, and I also tell, like, our young team members, like, it's a way to move up in the company, because if we have a young team member that's passionate about teen moms, well, of course, if we have the financial means, we're going to try to support that organization because they're giving their time and energy to it. Yeah. And then if they come to me and say, hey, we're doing this thing and we need to raise money to, you know, buy Christmas for the teen moms, like, we're going to be like, well, of course. Like, we're going to try to support the thing that our team's excited about. And so if they're involved, then we want to get behind them and encourage them. So, like, anybody, no matter if you have any, I always encourage our young employees. Like, I've had different seasons of my life. When I first started in Nashville, I had just paid for my own college. I had debt, and, you know, I had no money, but I had a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And so I've always told them, it's easy for them to look at me today and say, well, gosh, Micah's got more money than I do and all this. And I say, well, I didn't always. And when I was 22, I had time. Yeah. So what did I give then? Time. That was all I had. I didn't have any money, but I had a lot of time. So I started trying to volunteer with charities, giving my time, which was the only resource I had. Now, my life, 20 years later, with 3 young children, I have less time, but I have more money.
It's very inspiring, I have to say.
So we try to tell people, like, you got to figure out the season of life you're in and give whatever you can. And sometimes it's your talent, you know. And so you're really good at marketing, go tell a charity, like, I'm really good at marketing. I could help your Instagram, or, you know, just whatever skills you've developed in your career, you can go give those away, and people would love your help. Yeah.
And to flip that on its head, how important do you think that is for the team members as well? You know, talking about, I don't want to use the term low, because they're obviously not low, but they are lower on the rung. Knowing that they can approach the boss and that you're instantly going to buy into whatever they've bought into, that must create a really, really good culture within the business.
Absolutely.
Not even just for your business, but for a business.
100%. I mean, people just want to be heard. Mm-hmm. You know, and now, I mean, especially, everybody can read the headlines, but unemployment is still the lowest it's ever been. So people, you know, they always say, like, people don't leave companies, they leave leaders, you know? So, like, you know, young people, like, any company in Nashville can give these people a paycheck just like I can, but not everybody can give them a mission and an identity and a lot of authority and leadership. So, you know, anybody that runs a business has a responsibility to their team members to try to do more than just provide them with a paycheck.
Do you think you found your thing now? Having done the commercial real estate and all that, and now still being able to do that but provide this, do you think this is the most Micah you've ever been?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I am still focused on growing the commercial business as well because we give a lot of money through that business as well.
Yep.
But due to how it's structured, that's more like our company does. We don't require that of our investors on that business.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I feel very much like I'm in my sweet spot to,
Good.
you know, and I'm open to, you know, God changing my plans, but I am like very much in a sweet spot of what I feel like I'm called to do. And, you know, I believe at the end of our lives we'll be judged for the impact that we had. And so
I agree with you in that
you
one.
know, I, you know, God has blessed me with business acumen and skills, and for now, like that's what I feel very called to do. Now, as I get older and my children get older, that might change a little bit, and you know, I might decide to run a charity or whatever. But for now, I feel very planted where I am.
Yeah. And you seem very, very passionate about it, like the whole way through. Like you, on the very surface of it, we've only met you for just over an hour now. You're a good fit for this. You're incredibly passionate, and I think you should be. I know I said it earlier, but you should be commended for that. I think what you're doing with the Russell, the Gallatin, what was the other one? Sorry, the
506 Lofts.
506 Lofts, like that. It's commendable, and we obviously talk about the charitable side of it. Like we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have been able to come to Nashville.
I wanted
like this,
to say, like the wee card that we got in our room, it just says thanks for helping us with our mission. Well, I want to thank you for helping us with ours, because, you know, traveling it's you know, it's...
Yeah, we didn't have the money to do this.
No,
like, we didn't have
just-
the money to do a
yeah.
38-day trip of the States. We just knew it had to be the right thing. You know,
yeah.
Bill Oyster said something to me the other day, and it's been...
He's a guy that makes fishing rods in Blue Ridge.
Yeah, and it's been rattling around in my head quite a lot. It's not about what the cost is to do something, it's what the cost is if you don't do it.
Yeah.
And he talked about it as the greater cost, not just the financial, but what the greater cost is. So again, like Kate says, we want to thank you guys for having us, because if you didn't have us,
We might not have been here to podcast with the local makers and things.
there's like Red Rock Tiles, there's Whitewood Company, there's Honey Tree Meadery tomorrow. They're all guys that we couldn't share their stories if it wasn't for people like you, people like Tim and Tracy and George Atlanta that put us up. If it wasn't for all you guys, we wouldn't be here. So I appreciate it.
Well, we love your mission. I love that. I'm passionate about the maker community, and I love what you guys are doing so others can hear about them. And one thing you said earlier resonated with me. I've been fortunate in my life to, I raise money for our commercial business from extremely wealthy individuals. And it's good. Like, I grew up one way with no money, and then I raise money on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from people that are unbelievably, you know, the top 1% of the world types. And what I have learned is some of those people are happy. Most of them are not. And what I've learned is the money is not the motivator. It is not what gives people happiness. So, you know, if anybody, especially young people, listen, I think like the way I grew up, I always thought, man, if you make some money, that might give you some happiness. What I've realized is now being on both ends of the spectrum is the purpose of what you wake up for every day is what gives you happiness. Because I always say for some of my investors, the saddest day of their life is when they sell that company and make $100 million. Because for 25 years, they have thought that one day when I sell this business and make $100 million, that's going to be the secret to life. Like that's going to change everything. Like it's going to make me happy. And I always say it's honestly the saddest day of their life, because for the first 24 hours, they look at their bank account and go, wow, that's amazing. The next day they wake up and now they're less happy because they don't feel any different. But like I have seen investors over the years find a greater purpose for their life, whatever they're passionate about, you know, and that is what has given them purpose. It wasn't the money. So I say like anything over providing for the basic necessities of your family is just excess. Now you got to choose what you're going to do with the excess. So it, you know, hopefully that would hit home with some of your listeners about like, it's easy for people to think, well, that's easy to say because you might have a little extra money. I don't today, but I can promise them, like, finding a greater purpose for your life is the secret to life.
Yeah.
I like that.
Kate, your wrap-up question?
Yeah, I usually ask people, like, what advice would you give your younger self?
I was asked that not too long ago.
Yeah.
I said, you know, God's got big plans for you, and I don't care where you are on the faith spectrum. Like, you can believe in it or whatever you want, but like, it is amazing. I've been in Nashville 20 years, showed up here with no money, paid for college, had debt, And it is just amazing. And it's not all been up and to the right. I tell people, I
Yeah.
almost went broke in the Great Recession, and you know,
It's important to talk about that because you're a super positive guy.
Yes.
But I'm sure it hasn't always been like that.
no, it's not. But what I have learned is if you can just, I mean, it stunk to go through that in the great financial crisis, and we almost lost our business and everything. And, you know, but what I've learned is if you take that as like an experience to learn, then your life does feel like it's up and to the right, because, you know, the lows have frankly been some of the biggest highs for me, because you realize how much your character grows. And, you know, for me, it was a great reminder of like, money's not going to make you happy, because, you know, out of college I had done well financially, and then I lost everything in the financial crisis, and then, you know, been able to rebuild, but like it never affected my level of happiness, because I was like, well, I don't feel any different now. I had a little bit of money, now I've lost it all. And, you know, so that was not the metric. But, you know, I just think like, my best advice to my younger self is you got to be faithful to where you are. You have to work hard and be grateful. Just be planted where you are, because I see so many young people, they're always looking for the next thing. Like, well, this job, you know, it's like I always tell our team member, like, the more faithful you are in your current role, the more opportunities you'll be given.
Yep.
Like, I don't care if they work at Anchor or, you know, wherever, Citibank, you know, the biggest company in America. I don't, you know, if you will just treat your job like it's the best job you've ever had, then your boss will continue to give you opportunities. And don't be so focused on, I want the next promotion, I want this, I'm going to switch next company. Like, just be super diligent where you are, and then your bosses will see that and give you your next opportunity. And I always tell people, if they're not, then you do need to move companies.
Yes.
If you work for good people and you're doing your part, they'll continue to give you more opportunities. Now, if you're in your boss's office every other month saying, I want the next promotion, he's like, you've been here 6 months. Like, you know, just be faithful, and good bosses will notice that and keep moving you through the ranks. And so,
And it's important what you say, like, if that's not happening, if you can truly look at yourself and say, I'm giving everything every day for a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it takes, and it's not happening, then you're right. That's the time to move on.
that's right.
Don't move on prematurely.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think just people just need to stay planted. Like, giving advice to my younger self, it's like, be super focused where you are. Don't worry about what's next. That will take care of itself. Just enjoy the ride, and don't be so worried about what's going to happen in the future that you lose track of the joy of like the current moment.
It's good advice.
Very good
I
advice.
know I'll
and
take
thank
something
you.
from that.
Yeah.
Micah, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for your generosity, and both what you do and the generosity you've shown to Kate and I.
Yeah.
We've
Look forward to spreading the word about
it's
it.
made
for sure.
Nashville feel very homely in the few hours that we've been here. You know.
Well, thank you. We're super happy to have you guys. I love y'all's mission, and keep spreading the word about all these great makers out there and the good stuff they're doing.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Amazing.
guys.
That's good.